Hi, welcome to the week 5 lecture, interpersonal stressors and cognitive strategies. Last week I talked a little bit about the fight, fight, flight, freeze response. So this week I want to plug that response into the general adaptation syndrome model. So in stage 1, this is where that fight, flight, freeze response is activated, and it's stage 1 is the alarm. And so also the diathesis stress model talks about predisposing factors and precipitating factors from the environment. In other words, some people are more predisposed to stress and others are more resilient, and it's based upon not that they experience fewer events that trigger stress. It's a person's response to the event that makes the difference. Some people respond to stress in such a way that they're predisposed to stress, and others are certainly more resilient. One example is a research as reported by AMOD. Women experience more stress than men, and this is in the United States, and depression in women is twice that of men. So just an example of individual differences. Now AMOT goes on to talk about sources of stress. Well, matter of fact, these primarily come out of the text as well, too. The text discuss the role of incivility. I'm seeing a lot more on incivility as a topic of interest. I've seen 2 dissertations dedicated to the role of incivility in different contexts. And what these, based on the research the students did in their dissertations, this incivility is becoming a serious problem in many organizations. Sources of stress, certainly relationships, marriage, divorce, health issues, financial issues, raising children. These are all trigger events for stress. Now, once again, some people, it's the response that makes a difference. And so, some people are predisposed to stress and others are more resilient. Other sources of stress, this comes out of AMOT, organizational change, which is ongoing today, job security, which is that's not going to improve. I mean, jobs are what they are today, that there's no such thing as job security. Balancing family and work demands is becoming a bigger challenge. Job relocation is certainly related to that. Since 2008 and the financial collapse, a lot of stressors, triggers related to finances, like paying bills, increasing job demands through job enlargement, boring or unchallenging work, people stuck in jobs, pay inequity, which is still an issue in the United States, going to school while working full-time. Does that anybody relate to that? Planning for retirement, living conditions, and many of these are related to financial problems from 2008, real estate value, of course, and we covered some of these others, job enlargement, job security, cost of living, retirement, security, employment. All right, I want to talk about some cognitive patterns that tend to either make a person more predisposed to stress or more resilient. And I want to use the standardized test from Thomas and Timon. This is another one I like. I've used it a lot, and it's stress and resiliency. Um, and one of the things that I like about this is that not only does it do a nice job of describing cognitive patterns, and if you were to take this test, it will show you exactly where you score on these 3 patterns, so it's pretty useful. It also will describe whether you're predisposed to stress or whether you're resilient. Or so what you come out of this after you take this test is your own personal strengths and weaknesses. And the best part is these are learned behaviors. So let's say if you are predisposed to stress in one of these categories, you can change it. So the first one is deficiency focusing, and what it is in response to a stress trigger. A person has a tendency to only think about negatives in the situation. They don't think about anything that could happen that could potentially be positive. Necessitating is a category when a person thinks about the things that they need to do or the things that they have on their to-do list as have-tos, whereas I must, I should, I have to, I need to, rather than, let's say, people who are more resilient tend to think about these as more of a choice. Okay, he was like, I choose to do. And then skill recognition. To what degree are you able to recognize your own skill set as a factor in any given situation? And some people do, which makes them resilient, and others do not, which makes them more predisposed to stress. Deepak Chopra stated that it takes about 21 days to form a habit. So a person can actually change these patterns, and what they need to do is they need to focus on the new pattern for at least 21 days, and then that helps them to integrate this into their behavior. Let me give you an example. Let's say in each of these patterns, let me back up for a second. In each of these patterns, Thomas and Timon, they suggest what they call balancing questions. So for example, if someone is predisposed to stress and deficiency focusing, what they need to do when there's a stressor that triggers a response is they need to sit down and do an exercise where immediately they can list on paper all the negatives they're thinking about, which that's their natural response. But then they need to draw another column and force themselves to think about, okay, what are the positives in this situation? And when they do that, that changes their stress response. In other words, it becomes more balanced, and then they're learning that to think in a more balanced way in response to these stressors. Necessitating, same thing. When a person starts really placing a lot of pressure on themselves that I have to, I must do, they need to realize, these are actually choices. What would happen if they actually did not do it? And the world doesn't come to an end. There are consequences, and maybe in some cases, well, I don't want to experience the consequences. Well, okay, well then I choose to do this now. Why? Because I don't. But that's different than thinking, I have to, or the world's going to end. So they learn to think about tasks on their to-do list differently. And then the last one, skill recognition. When something good or bad happens, they need to evaluate their own skill set as a factor in the situation. And in many cases, when a person faces a difficult situation and they successfully navigate through it, it's because of their skill set. In other words, their skill set made a difference in getting them through that situation. So once you learn where you're predisposed to stress, then you can change your response pattern and form a habit. And by forming a habit means you integrate the new behavior, the new pattern into your behavior. Tom Rath was an author for the Gallup organization, and he wrote a book on well-being. I think it was in around 2008. I don't see the year right now, but I've got it in the it was in 2010. So in 2010, and in this book, elevated well-being and stress, the importance of that in organizations. The only thing that detracted a bit from that was the employer's market that followed the 2008 financial collapse, but it certainly was a nice contribution. There's also the Yerkes-Dodson model, which talks about some stress is good. It optimizes performance, and so, but it's too much stress, too long, has the opposite effect. So that's something to bear in mind. Let me also say before I get into references, job demands and job control have been identified as key factors in organizational stress. And so more attention also is being paid to the fit between the person and the environment. And a person's stress response certainly can be part of that. Some jobs are high stress and they're always going to be. And so, and a person may find their performance on that type of job is very high, but the price they pay is the stress they experience. They're an ideal candidate to learn a new cognitive strategy to respond to stress and make a commitment to make the change. Okay, once again, I've got these, including the Rath source, all listed in the transcript that I'll post online. Thank you.